Hey everyone. So I said I was going to start doing video. It just made sense. I have the house. I thought I would do it. I said I would start out very amateur, and that's where we're at. And hopefully it will grow over time and get better. But this is the first video that I'm sharing with you. Not the first video I've recorded, but the first one that I'm told may be fairly decent. So, shall we start? The idea with the series is to share recipes and things that I've learned growing up on a very old farm that I've realized a lot of my friends who grew up in cities or suburban areas or not on really old farms may not have learned. And me being a bit of an old soul here in my cardigan, I figured I might as well share. So we're going to start with one of my very, very favorite recipes. And if you know me during the fall at all, I make this way too often. This was one of our recipes that we had in our very first issue 9 years ago. Um, and somehow it's worked its way into almost every fall issue since. And this year, I share it in this issue. But I shared this really fancy recipe that I don't really love. It makes a really fancy version of this, but this is a simple country cast iron pie. So we're going to go back to our very first issue and this recipe. And it could not be more simple. So shall we get started? Oh, also, I guess I should tell you what we're making. We are going to make a cast iron skillet apple pie. If you know anything about cast iron, it has a different cooking than glass or metal or typical baking dishes. Things cook at a different speed, they cook at a different temperature. They get this crispiness that is just great. I think it adds such character and flavor. So anytime I can cook with cast iron, I really do. And this was the first recipe that I ever did that really got me to fall in love with it. So we are going to start by melting 1 stick of butter and 1 cup of brown sugar in a cast iron skillet. Just set your oven to 350 to preheat and go ahead and pop that in. It'll melt while you're peeling your apples and getting everything together. As you can see, it's already melted and it's on the stove behind me. Let's make the filling here in the bowl. So in the recipe, the original recipe, it calls for 4 peeled apples. I think that is perfect if you're doing large apples. But if you're doing small or medium apples, you're going to need 6 or 7. Peel plenty, and you can always make multiple pies or snack on them afterwards if you don't have room for it all. I am using gala, however you say it, apples. You can use Honeycrisp if you're feeling fancy. Just don't do anything that's mealy. Don't ever cook with an apple that is mealy because it's going to break down and it's going to be really soft and it's not going to feel that good. I also wouldn't recommend a super tart apple, but if you like a tart pie, go for it. I think these are such a good middle ground. So we're going to start by putting our apples in a bowl. I sliced these, I peeled these. You didn't want to watch me do them. It's messy. So we're going to put them in a bowl. When I'm typically doing this and there's not a camera, I use this huge bowl that's basically a glorified dough bowl, but this one works perfect. So here we go. We're gonna put these, and if you're gonna peel these and you're gonna let them sit, throw some lemon juice in there with some acidity. That will keep them from browning. I just peeled these, so we should be good. And if you wanna add lemon juice for just a little bit of a tart, you can. You don't have to, it's not in the recipe. So we've got our apples in the bowl. We're then going to add 1 cup of white sugar. I've already measured this, I learned that from the first video. It's much better if you already have it done. So we're then gonna add our spices. You can use a pumpkin pie mix, pumpkin pie spice, an apple pie spice. You can do the ones that are already mixed. You can also make it kind of on your own. The general rule here is 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. I like ginger, so I added some ginger to my mix as well. I know we sell our own pumpkin pie spice mix. So I would typically be using that, but I'm out. So I made this up really quick. So we're gonna dump that in. And then the recipe, as I've already said, has brown sugar underneath the crust. And it's gonna make this gooey caramel. that's just going to be really, really good. But I like to add a little bit into the actual mixture of the apples. So I'm going to dump that in. This is really just whatever amount you want. I would say there's 2 tablespoons here, but you can totally leave this out. The recipe does not call for it. The recipe also doesn't call for a pinch of salt, but you should add it. Just take my word for it. You can really add as much as you want. It's just going to add a good flavor. And then we're going to stir. And all this sugar is going to juice these apples. Well, you can kind of see self-explanatory. You can also add, I know this year in our fall issue, I recommended adding sorghum or maple syrup or molasses. You can add any sort of flavors you want. You can get as fancy or as simple as you want. I have very much enjoyed keeping it really simple this year. So we've got this mixed. I told you this recipe was easy. It's almost too easy, but here we are. So we've got it mixed. And now we're gonna grab our skillet. It's got the butter, it's got the brown sugar melted. They have become one. And then we're gonna add a crust. I just get the Pillsbury rolled pie crust in the refrigerator section. And I love this very, very rustic, very, very homemade feeling. So you can make this as nice as you want. You can make it fluted. You can do it as pretty as you want and as perfect as you want, but I'm not Mary Poppins and I don't want it practically perfect in every way. I just want it to be good. So we've got that in. Now we're gonna add our filling. So just put it in. I am notorious for mixing this with my hands. I think that's a lot easier, and that's what I'm gonna do. So spread it out evenly. These will bake down a little bit. Not a lot, but a little. And I'm pretty sure I've got way too many apples. But I will occasionally use my big 10-inch cast iron if I know that I'm going to be serving this to a lot of people. You're going to want to use a lot in it. This is, I think, a 9-inch cast iron. So we could have gotten by with 6 of the smaller apples, but I did 7 because I wanted it to look really full. And I do stand by that. So we've got that mixed, and we're going to dump all of the last of this in here. So, it's sugar, you don't want to let that go to waste. So we've got it evenly spaced out. We've got our hands very, very sticky. So that is great. And now we're just going to take the crust. Again, you can do this as fancy as you want. Sometimes if I'm in a really good mood, I will do a lattice. I will do cute little shapes cut in it. I'll do a nice leaf if it's fall. I'll do whatever I want. But today, I very much want to stick with how we did it in the original. Just a nice, simple, rustic cover. So you want to make sure you cover all of the edges just to get it good and even. And you can use your fork, you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to, but I am going to cut a couple of slits for air. That will help it cook evenly and just be a much prettier pie. The final step is we're going to take 1 tablespoon of butter and we're going to slice it and just put little dollops on the crust just to make it have a nice golden feel. You could also do an egg wash if you want, but this is just the good old country way, and that is the way that I prefer. So just add this to the top, and then we're going to take just a little bit of our pumpkin pie sugar just to decorate the top of it, just to give it a nice finish. You can totally use regular sugar, but I love our pumpkin spice infused cane sugar that we sell on our website and in stores across the country. And it's just gonna add just the perfect little touch. You can smell the nutmeg and the cinnamon and all of it in the sugar, and it's just gonna be perfect. So from there, we are ready to go in the oven. I like to cover mine in aluminum foil. It helps keep the crust from burning because these are apples and you do want them to be fairly soft. So we're gonna cook them for a while. But that's it. Let's throw it in the oven. And we're done. Well, we're not done, but you know what I mean. You want to cook it at 350, as I already said, for 30 to 45 minutes until the crust is brown. And if you see that the apples are getting tender, but the crust isn't as brown as you would like, go ahead and take off the aluminum foil and you'll be good to go. And then we're done. We have a beautiful apple pie. I should have added a couple more apples in this one. I didn't, so it's a little flat, but that's okay. I'm not gonna plate this because I am horribly messy. So I'm just gonna cut it and then we're gonna end the video here. And that's going to be it. I hope you love this pie. If you haven't already ordered our fall issue, you better get a copy because I'm pretty proud of it.